Good day, digital wanderers. When you look at this picture, your eyes don't see a cat looking at the sunset. You see a bunch of light, or lack thereof, in a specific formation, and your brain processes that and tells you that it's a cat. You can think of it like your brain making a little jigsaw puzzle to figure out what's going on. In short, sensory overload is what happens if you get so many puzzle pieces at once that you can't piece together all the puzzles before the next load of pieces arrives. Now, your brain is basically a supercomputer that lives in your head, so for a lot of people the chance of this happening is pretty slim. However, this puzzle process doesn't look the same for everyone. If you're, for example, autistic, your puzzles may look a little more like this. Immediately you can see that these puzzles would take a lot more time and brain power to solve, which increases the chance of sensory overload. So now that you have an idea of what sensory overload is and why it happens, you may wonder what it's like exactly. The first thing I tend to notice is that it takes more willpower and concentration to focus, for example, on the conversation I'm having. There are so many things I perceive at once, and sometimes the puzzle I really needed ends up at the bottom of the pile by accident. I might have to keep asking you to repeat what you said, or generally just have a slow response time. It might be important to note here that raising your voice does not help and can actually make the problem worse. If someone can't understand what you say due to sensory overload, speak clearer, not louder. If the puzzle pieces keep piling up, it can affect my emotional state. I can get irritable, stressed, anxious, confused, or generally uncomfortable. Some unfortunate people, including myself, can experience physical pain from sensory overload, usually in the form of a headache and/or a burning or stinging feeling in the general area that's being overstimulated. I can have the urge to cover my eyes or ears to stop or at least reduce the constant bombardment of sensory input. Sorry if that's rude. Now you might be thinking, I know someone who deals with sensory overload and I don't want them to feel like that. What can I do to help? If you are indeed thinking that, thank you for being a good person. Since everyone is different and has different needs, it's probably best to ask that person what would help them, but there are a few general rules. Firstly, familiar things are easier to process than unfamiliar things. Again, this fits into the puzzle analogy. A puzzle is easier to make if you've solved it before, because you recognize all the pieces and know where they go. This is probably why autistic people tend to like routine so much. It just saves a lot of mental energy to stick with things we already know. If I'm having sensory overload, I often find it helpful to listen to music I've heard many times before. There will always be sound, but at least this sound is one I know. Secondly, if you're planning to take your person If you're planning to take the person in question into a situation that might be overstimulating for them, be sure to announce it beforehand so that they can mentally prepare or take precautions they may deem necessary. If you notice signs of sensory overload, ask them if they're okay and if they need to take a break. And if they do need a break, let them have one, preferably without waiting. Every second is another puzzle on the pile, and the pile does not care if it's socially acceptable to leave yet. Thank you very much for caring and watching my video. If you do intend to take my advice, be sure to also ask the person in question if I represented their struggles and needs accurately. Again, everyone is different and there is no one-size-fits-all solution, so be sure to have that conversation and give the help that is actually needed and wanted. If there's anything that I missed or was wrong about, feel free to leave your feedback in the comments below.